I first noticed the man on a Tuesday. It was early April, the kind of morning when the mist hangs low over the ground and everything feels like it's holding its breath. I was walking through Fairview Park, just like I did every day since I retired last summer. Same time, same path, same cup of black coffee from Mel's Diner clutched in my hand. But that morning, he was there, sitting alone on the third bench from the east entrance. Brown coat, fedora, hands resting quietly on his knees. He didn't look at me, didn't move, just sat perfectly still, watching the empty playground like it meant something. I passed him, nodded politely, no response. That wouldn't have meant anything. Fairview's full of folks keeping to themselves. But the next day, he was there again, same bench, same posture, same coat, and the day after that, and the day after that. By Friday, I began to wonder if he even left at all. The bench looked like it belonged to him now. I'm Harold Simmons, 67, retired elementary school principal. My wife, Claire, passed 6 years ago from ovarian cancer. My daughter, Rebecca, lives 3 states over with her husband and twin boys. We talk on weekends. I fish sometimes, read a lot, and walk every morning through Fairview Park because that's what keeps the rest of the day from falling apart. Routine. It's what keeps the grief at bay. But this man, he didn't fit the routine. I asked around at Mel's, casually, anyone know the guy on the bench? But no one did, not even Joe, who's worked maintenance at the park for 15 years. He said he'd never seen the guy before. Maybe he's new to town. Joe shrugged. Maybe, I replied. But something in my gut told me that wasn't it. The next week, he was still there, every morning, same bench, same coat, same stillness. Sometimes I wondered if he even blinked. On Monday, I slowed down as I passed. Mornin', I offered. This time, he turned his head slightly and nodded. His eyes were gray, not the dull, cloudy kind, sharp, alert, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. I kept walking, but I felt his gaze on my back until I was out of sight. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing him in my head, sitting there, perfectly still, like a figure in a painting. Something about him felt off. Not dangerous, just wrong in the way an open door is wrong when you know you locked it. By Wednesday, curiosity got the better of me. I sat down on the opposite end of the bench. He didn't look at me at first. We sat in silence. A squirrel scurried up a tree. Birds rustled in the branches. Name's Harold, I said finally. I know, he said. He said it like he was saying the sky was blue. I froze. Have we met? He turned his head, slow and smooth. No, then how? This bench used to be yours. I looked down at the wood beneath us. I had sat on this bench every morning the year after Claire died, until one day I couldn't anymore. It hurt too much. You watched from the corner of the path, he continued. 6 months. Same time. Then you stopped. I felt my mouth go dry. Who are you? I asked. Someone who remembers. He stood, dusted off his coat, walked away without another word. I sat there for a long time, not sure what I felt. Not fear, not exactly, but something close to unease, like I had been seen too clearly. That night, I pulled out an old photo album, found the picture of Claire and me sitting on that bench, 20 years ago. I hadn't looked at it in years. The next morning, he wasn't there, just an envelope on the bench, with my name on it. Inside, a photo, me, from behind, sitting on the bench the day before, in a single sentence, typed on a small piece of paper, not all ghosts are dead. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed with the letter on my chest and the ceiling fan ticking out seconds that refused to pass. My mind spun with thoughts I couldn't wrangle. Who was the man on the bench, and how did he know about Lucy? How did he know about the letter I never mailed? And why now, all these years later? At 6:00 a.m., I was already dressed and out the door. I walked the familiar path through Ridgewood Park, my shoes crunching the morning frost on the sidewalk. It was still too early for most joggers, Just birdsong and the distant bark of a dog somewhere beyond the trees. And there he was, sitting just like before, same position. Same coat, hat pulled low. I didn't hesitate this time. I sat down next to him without saying a word. He didn't look at me right away, just kept his eyes on the small pond across the trail. Ducks were gliding across the water like nothing in the world could touch them. I used to come here with my daughter, I said. We'd feed them breadcrumbs, even though the sign said not to. He nodded, almost imperceptibly. Lucy. I turned to him. Who are you? His smile was faint. Let's just say I'm someone who listens better than most. That's not an answer. No, he said. It's not. We sat in silence again. It stretched long and awkward, but not uncomfortable. He finally turned his head. You kept that letter all these years. Why? I wasn't ready for that question. I don't know, I said. Maybe it was a way to keep a part of her close, a piece of what could have been. That letter was meant to say goodbye, he said. But it didn't. You never gave yourself permission. I felt something tighten in my chest. What do you know about it? He looked at me, really looked. You were going to send it after her accident. You wrote it the night before the funeral, but you couldn't bring yourself to seal it. How do you know that? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Because sometimes, the people we lose don't let go either, not until we're ready. His words hung in the air like fog. I looked away, blinking fast. She was only 16, I said. There wasn't supposed to be an end yet, I know. His voice was softer now, nearly a whisper, but you've carried it like a stone in your pocket. Every day, every decision, you left your teaching job. You stopped playing music, you stopped living in the world that had her in it. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed around something too big to name. He placed something on the bench between us. A photo, weathered, slightly bent. It was of Lucy and me, taken in this very park. I hadn't seen it in years. I didn't even remember someone taking it. Where did you get this? He didn't answer. Instead, he stood up. She'd want you to live, Harold. Not just survive. There's a difference. He turned to walk away, then paused. You ever notice how some benches are placed just right? Like they're waiting for someone specific to sit down? He left before I could ask anything else. I held the photo in both hands. Lucy's smile was wide, her eyes squinting in the sunlight. I remembered that day. It was her birthday. We'd gotten ice cream afterward. I remembered now. The wind picked up, sending a swirl of leaves across the gravel. I sat there for a long time, just breathing, just being. By the time I stood, I felt something loosen in my chest that had been there for 18 years. That night, I took the letter from the box in my closet. I read it aloud, to the empty room, to the walls that had held my silence for too long. Then I lit a candle and watched the flame eat the edges of the paper, curling them inward like fingers finally letting go. The bench was empty the next morning, but for the first time, I didn't need him to be there. I sat anyway, and I smiled. The next morning, I left earlier than usual. I needed to be there before him. I needed answers. The park was quiet, still wet from the night's dew. The mist hung low, and the world felt paused. The bench was empty. For the first time in over a month, he wasn't there. I stood, staring at the worn wood of the seat, unsure whether to feel relieved or disappointed. Maybe he had finally gone. Maybe the mystery would dissolve with the morning sun. But as I turned to leave, I saw it, a small envelope, folded in half, sitting exactly where he always sat. No name, no stamp, just a note. To the man who walks in silence, I know you have questions. Come back tonight, after dark, alone. A part of me bristled. This felt ridiculous, theatrical. But another part, the part that couldn't stop replaying every word he'd said to me, leaned in. That entire day, I couldn't concentrate. I didn't tell anyone, not Lindsay, not even my therapist. I just waited, watching the clock, dreading it, wanting it. And when the sun dipped below the trees and the first shadows stretched across the town, I walked back to the bench. He was already there. The lamplight caught the edge of his profile, painting gold over gray. He looked like a man from a different decade, the kind who didn't need a phone to feel present. I was beginning to think you wouldn't come, he said, not looking at me. I almost didn't. He patted the bench beside him. I sat. The wood was cold. You left the note? I asked. Yes. Why? Because you're ready. Ready for what? He turned and looked at me for the first time that night. His eyes weren't strange anymore. They were steady, familiar, somehow, kind. Harold wasn't your father's real name, he said softly. I blinked. What? His real name was Henry. Harold was the name he used when he first came to this town. A name he gave himself when he left the life he never talked about. How do you know that? Because I knew Henry, long before you were born. The world tilted. I stared at him. You're saying you knew my father? He nodded. I worked with him. In Baltimore, 1976, he was a brilliant man, quiet, honest, but he carried weight, secrets. What kind of work? I asked, my throat dry. Systems work, government adjacent, quiet stuff. We weren't spies, but let's just say the walls had ears. I didn't know whether to laugh or panic. This sounds insane. I know, but I promised him I'd find you one day, when the time was right. When you started coming here, to this bench, I knew. He'd said you might. Why now? He smiled faintly. Because you've spent years searching for something, meaning, connection, but always looking in the wrong direction. You thought it was your father's silence that hurt you, but it was his protection. He never wanted you involved in his past. I tried to breathe slowly. My hands were cold. He continued. He kept things from you, not to punish you, but to shield you. But now that he's gone, it's time you understood. He pulled out a small worn box from his coat. This belonged to him. He asked me to hold on to it, said you'd know when to open it. I hesitated before taking it. The box was light, smooth, walnut wood, hand-carved. No lock, just a simple hinge. I opened it. Inside were three things. A photo, black and white, of my father, younger than I'd ever seen him, standing beside this man, both of them in suits, smiling. A silver pin, with the emblem of an eagle wrapped around a key, and a folded letter. I opened it, hands trembling. To my son. It began. If you're reading this, it means you found your way. Maybe not the way I thought you would, but a way nonetheless. I spent a lifetime running from parts of myself I couldn't explain. I tried to build something normal for you, even if I couldn't always be whole. I hope one day you understand. You are not the weight I carried. You are the reason I carried it, Dad. The tears came quietly. I sat on the bench, the same one he must have sat on years ago, the same one I walked past every day, without knowing its meaning, and this stranger, this friend, sat beside me, silent. When I looked at him again, I asked, why now? Why tell me now? He smiled gently. Because grief is a maze, and sometimes, you need a breadcrumb. You've been walking in circles. It's time to step forward. I nodded slowly. Are you some kind of guardian? I asked, only half joking. He laughed. No, just a man who owed a friend a promise. We sat there a while longer. The air was cold. The moon climbed higher. Finally, I asked, what's your name? He looked at me, and for the first time, offered his hand. Call me Tom. Tom left the next morning. No goodbyes. Just gone. I came back to the bench, just to see. He wasn't there, but the box was still in my hand. The photo still burned in my memory. I walked through town differently that day, not because the streets had changed, but because I had. My father's silence wasn't abandonment. It was a form of love I hadn't known how to read until now. I thought I knew him, but I only knew the version he let me see. And maybe, that's all any of us are, versions of ourselves, shaped by time, by duty, by regret, by love. That old park bench, Harold's bench, I still call it, became a place I returned to, not every day, not with questions anymore, but with presence. Sometimes I bring coffee, sometimes I just sit, and sometimes I swear I hear footsteps near the trees, like someone watching, just far enough to stay unseen. But I don't go looking. Some answers aren't meant to be chased. They come when the heart is still. My name is David. I'm 46 years old, and for the first time in a long while, I feel like I'm finally starting to understand who I am, not because of what I was told, but because of what I was willing to ask. Maybe there's a bench in your life, too, a place, a memory, a moment, that's been waiting for you to stop, to sit, to listen, maybe it's time you did. Thank you for listening. If this story touched something in you, if it made you think of someone you've lost, or someone you've yet to understand, leave a like, share it with a friend, or just write a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe to Golden Moments for more stories that remind us what matters most, because sometimes, the smallest stories leave the deepest echoes.